It was dogs versus dogs in the kennel tonight. The Zags hosting Washington, and these teams have only played 48 times in total, but UW hasn't won a game in the Lilac City since 1944. The Seahawks are 2 wins away from guaranteeing a surprising winning record for the 2022 season. They'll try and get one of those dubs tomorrow against the struggling Carolina Panthers. Now that you've gotten an inside look in the world of special education teaching, we hope that you'll join the cause in getting them better working conditions and better compensation. For GUTV, I'm Matt Khoury. As for the Gonzaga men's team, it was Gales versus Zags. The two rivals met in the WCC Championship for the second time in 2 years and 4 out of the past 5 WCC tournaments. Unlike last year's close contest, this one was all. I'm here on Bulldog Alley asking GU students their thoughts after the tough loss to UConn last Saturday. Let's see what they have to say. We know you missed us so much that we thought we'd run it back like UConn will try to next season for one final sports talk. For this segment, we are going to talk about the future of the Zags and next season. So guys, thanks for sticking around for another segment. What do we think about the Zags next year, both men and women? Women, we got a lot of returners coming back, but men, not so much. What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, on the men's side, you just kind of pointed to it. I mean, how many guys are leaving next year? We already know. Timmy Strother is a potential first-rounder, and then Dom Harris and Hunter Salas have just entered the portal, and they've already heard from a handful of schools. So
big surprise with Salas too. That one was shocking.
Yeah, I know, and you look at it, and you always the potential to come back, of course. But we just kind of have to play with the fact that he's moving on, and he's going to find success somewhere else. But yeah, and really, there's no direction with the program. We kind of talked about earlier. They've always had a sense of where they're going. They have these up and coming, guys who have sat on the bench for 1 year or two. But in this day of college basketball, you don't get that with NIL, right? Just like we've seen, guys want opportunities, and great for them. But for the Zags, there's opportunities in the portal. They got, I think, a few names on their list right now. Kelly Ware from Oregon. He's a great big center. Blocked a lot of shots last year off the bench. And then Steele Venters from Eastern, who is a great shooter. So a lot of names out there, but very interesting to see where they're going to go.
Dr. Turcotte, the women, they have entire starting 5 potentially coming back. Yvonne Ejim's the big question if she's going to go to the WNBA or not. What do you think about that program just sticking together? 28-4 this year, can they make another deep run?
Yeah, I mean, I think high expectations for the Gonzaga women's team next year. As you said, a lot of the starters coming back. They need Ejim. I mean, she is one of the best low post players, I think, in the country. I also think they have one of the best point guards in the country, Kaylin Trong. So they have a lot coming back, high expectations. I think looking at their non-conference schedule, I think it's really important that they get into some tournaments, play some SEC teams, get ready for the national tournament, because the national tournament, they're going to see the Ole Misses, the Tennessees, the South Carolinas, the Iowas. So, getting ready for that, I think, to learn from the men's side on the Gonzaga men's team is you have to really boost up your non-conference schedules. You can't be scheduling any kind of, softies. You got to get in there and find the big teams, find the big programs, play them on their court, because when it gets down to the national tournament, that experience is going to pay off. But I think Gonzaga fans should be very excited and optimistic about the women's team for next year.
You mentioned scheduling. Maui Jim Maui next year with the men's, big teams like UCLA, Kansas already invited into that tournament. Do you think that can help them prepare a lot better on the men's side than not really playing in a big tournament, preseason tournament this season because they didn't?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a younger group, as we've seen, and it's going to be a lot of big battles early on. And I think that's going to be great for them. We'll see how each team's looking at the start of next season, where they fall in the poll and all that. But to play in big tournaments like that, where the best teams are going to play, I think that raises a level of expectation for them heading into the season. Of course, we know they have their tune-up games to start, and that's to get their feet wet. But Mark Few, he loves to just jump right in and get that experience playing against the best of the best. So we'll see how that goes for them. I know they've had success there in the past, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of roster tinkering at that point too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say kind of go back to the offseason. I think this is maybe one of the biggest off-seasons for the Gonzaga men's team in recent memory. And so that's going to be an early test. That's a November tournament. Maybe they'll have 1 or 2 games under their belt before that tournament. And so you're kind of getting thrown into the fire. Are these new guys going to be ready? Are we going to see new leadership from Nolan Hickman, from Ben Gregg? Is Anton Watson going to be around? Are the new transfers or is the Dusty Stormer going to be ready to play? So a lot of question marks. And Gonzaga basketball fans are not really patient. They don't really believe in a rebuilding year. And so if Gonzaga doesn't do well, I think there'll be a lot of pressure from the fan base, from the alumni, because they don't really tolerate the rebuilding. So it's a loaded field in Maui. It's going to be fun, and hopefully they can win a couple games. But again, if they can't, I'm sure there'll be kind of some panic from the fan base.
Yeah, you mentioned the fan base. I mean, I just think at least in the past 10 years, they've had a top 4 seed 8 tournaments, only 2. I think 2014 they had an 8, lost in the second round to Arizona. 2016 had an 11, but still made the Sweet 16. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. One last question for you guys. What was your favorite moment from just either Gonzaga's season or the college basketball, both men and women, as a whole?
Wow.
You want to go?
Man, favorite moment from this season. I mean, for the Zags, probably seeing Drew Timme pass that record. I know it didn't happen here, but just watching on TV in that moment for him, kind of just summed up his whole career as one of the best to be a Zag. And I think specific tournament, I had Virginia going very far in the tournament. We'll preface with that. So watching JP Peegs, I believe, knock down that shot for Furman off the steal, heartbreaking, but also what a way to kick off the tournament.
Yeah, I think Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue was unbelievable. That was just out of this world. No one saw that coming. Hearing the storylines from FDU come out were pretty remarkable. But again, we're Gonzaga people. Seeing Julian Strother hit that shot after he didn't have a great game going to that point, playing his hometown, that was an unbelievable shot. So I think I'll remember that one, from this tournament. But the women's side too. Again, I think they're just made so much. There was so much growth in that. I feel like they're really kind of are getting closer to kind of the parallel of the men's game in terms of just attention and media following. And so, I think that everyone will remember the Caitlin Clark run and going for 40 for multiple games, kind of the rivalry with LSU upsetting South Carolina. So I think we'll remember that on the women's side, but the men's side, so many storylines, but the Strother 3 really sticks out to me.
I would have to say, best on the women's side, Caitlin Clark, when she brushed off South Carolina shooter. That was one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen live. And then Jim Nance, last tournament, watching him watch one shiny moment, that was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Agreed.
So I want to thank you both for joining us throughout this whole bracketology run. It's been great getting to talk to you.